Hello, everybody, and welcome to Verosint Live. It's the premier event of this fabulous weekly webinar demo series that we are kicking off. We're so happy that you're here to join us today. Verosint, we're committed to stopping account fraud before it starts. And today we're going to show you just how we do that, why we're doing it, and give you some insights and show you the platform. I am joined today with Mark Batchelor and Travis Verosint. I'll let them introduce themselves. Mark, why don't you give us a quick intro?
Sure. Mark Batchelor, CTO, co-founder here at Verosint. I'm going to go over the dashboard for you guys today, do a quick product overview, and give you a little give you a little brief history of why and how we ended up here. That's what we're going to go over today. Travis?
Hey everyone, Travis Verosint, head of product here at Verosint. And I'm going to let Mark show off the product that we've built and be here to answer any questions and add my kind of 2 cents throughout as we go through things.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is your first chance to witness how we work and how it could benefit you and protect your accounts. So before we begin, I just want to make sure you know everyone's microphones are set to mute just to minimize distractions and background noise. If you have questions, be sure to use the chat function. We will take questions at the end if there are any. And we'll record this session. It will be available on our website, and we'll send all of you guys a link to watch the webinar replay at the end if you've been registered to watch with us. So with enough of that, enough of the housekeeping, let's get started. I'm going to kick it off with Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
All right. Well, hi again, everybody. Again, Mark Batchelor, CTO, co-founder. Wanted to talk about a couple of things today. First, I was going to give you a brief history of sort of how we ended up here and how Verosint came about. And then I was going to give a brief product overview. We're going to dive deeper into the product and certain features of the product in subsequent later versions of these Verosint Live events and go deeper on certain features. For now, we'll just do a brief overview of what it is, how it became about, and why you might care. Without further ado, basically, we came about, my co-founder, Steve Schoaf, and I met a while ago at another company, and we were both enamored with the idea of risk scoring at the time, right? So everybody wanted a risk score. Everybody wanted to do adaptive MFA, and they wanted to just ask somebody a question and get back a score and say, is this thing risky, right? So we initially set off to build a better risk engine. And we did that, we think. However, during the process of building this and as we built the company out, what we actually realized we were doing was we were building a better account fraud detection platform, right? The light bulb moment, the light bulb kind of went off for us, and we took off and said, you know what, we're actually building a fraud mitigation platform that's pretty unique. And the space it fits in, the flows that we use to mitigate fraud are relatively unique. So when we realized that, we ended up actually rebranding the company into Verosint, brought on some more folks, and built out a pretty awesome SaaS platform to use, right? Part of it has to do with open source intelligence. Prior to doing this, I had spent some time in the crypto space. And in that crypto space, I was exposed to a lot of open source intelligence. And there's lots of vendors out there that are curating OSINT and letting you search through it. I kept seeing that and thinking to myself, dang, if I can only do this in real time, I could do some pretty interesting things with it. So you'll see OSINT, I mean, it's even in our name. You'll see OSINT spattered about through our platform. And we actually use that data to build. We use a lot of that data to build what it is that we do, right? Let me just jump right into it, and I'll start showing you what it actually looks like and give you a brief overview of the products and go from there. Travis, did you want to add anything to any of that?
Only thing I wanted to add was kind of what we define as account fraud. And obviously that's a growing space and a growing problem set, but the three areas we're focused a lot on right now are account takeovers, account sharing, and multi-accounting. Multi-accounting kind of being the literal inverse of account sharing. You see this in like promotional abuse and referral fraud. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about the fact those are the main areas, obviously expanding over time, that we consider kind of this grouping of account fraud.
Yeah, that good ad. For those of you that don't know, I brought Travis here to keep me honest. So
I'll do my best.
Let me go ahead and jump right into the product. So here you go. Hopefully you guys can see that. You guys good? Yeah. All right. So when it really boils down to it, right now we're really 2 API endpoints is what we have. We have an endpoint that is used to ingest data, and we have an endpoint that's used to ask us questions about the data that we've ingested, right? And before I jump into the actual showing you the product here, the ingestion side of the house, we're really only asking for a handful of attributes about customers. Generally, we find ourselves in this order. We find ourselves servicing the SIAM market, so customer identity and access management. We find ourselves servicing the sort of partner management market. It's sort of the next tier down, and then it's the workforce department for us, right? So we are useful to the workforce. However, we're much more useful on the customer identity and access side, and it'll become clear why here in a couple minutes. So with that in mind, we had gone out, and so we built the platform, and for data ingestion, we actually built integrations for platforms like Auth0, for Ping DaVinci. We were working on ForgeRock. We've done some work with Microsoft so that on their own IAM platforms, whenever there's a login event or a registration event or a high value identity event, so things like maybe changing my email address on my profile, that would be a high value, identity event. We can ingest the signal that's occurring at that time. And when I say signal, what I really mean is that we want to be sent the account or email address. Usually it's the email address of the person that's committing that, the IP address, the user agent, or like an app ID of what it happens to be, and maybe a phone number if they have a phone number, because we've got data on phone numbers. With those things, what we do is we then turn around and look up all the OSINT data we can about each one of those attributes. So we'll look up everything we can about the IP address, ASNs, ASOs, latitude and longitude, who owns it. We'll look up everything we can about the email address. So not just, we'll look up, has it been breached or that type of thing, but we'll also look up about the domain. So when was it registered? Is it a sketchy domain? Where is it located? All that kind of stuff. And then we actually end up building a fingerprint for that thing, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. So for ingestion, for us, it's all about sending us those events, and then we build out these fingerprints and augment it with a bunch of data, or decorate it with a bunch of data. So let me just jump right into the product then, and hopefully this will make sense. Let me move you guys. Sorry, I know you can't see me moving you, but I just moved you guys over there. Basically, here's the product. We're a SaaS platform, lives up on Amazon for us, highly scalable. And what you see here is simply our fraud dashboard. These are events that a customer has ingested into our platform, in this case, this demo tenant, and the insights that we found about those events, right? So on our fraud overview dashboard, just to give you kind of an idea what it is, this has done 1,300 events in the last 12 months. We found 485 unique accounts, and we built 371 unique prints. That'll become clear in a moment. For fraud signals, we found 13 signals. We labeled 13 things that are doing account sharing, and we've labeled 431 that have multiple accounts, and 20 of them have done impossible travel. So impossible travel simply is, there's an actual definition for it, but the general rule is I'm in, London at the moment, and 5 minutes later I log in Chicago. Impossible travel. assuming I'm not on a VPN, right? Which we can also check for. Risk signals, which signals have we flagged anything on? And I can see all of the signals. I can go through them and look at them all. And then, recent activity. So moving through the dashboards here, here's our account takeover dashboard. Now I don't have any data in this dashboard for this tenant at the moment. So you'll have to go with what I've got. But what we're attempting to do here is note what we think are indicators of account takeover, so that you can look at them to figure out whether or not they were, or even build rules to mitigate them, which we'll talk about here in a minute too. So accounts with recent suspicious IP addresses. We're going to show those, what account it was associated with, when it was added, and then I could go look at it. Impossible travel hotspots. So maybe I'm getting attacked by a botnet, and they're moving around quite a bit between two places. We'll show the impossible travel hotspots, and then we're going to show accounts that have multiple IPs connected with them, and then also accounts that are recently breached. The idea behind this particular dashboard is to give you an indication that if account takeover may be occurring, or these are things you should look at.
And if you were a customer and saw a completely blank dashboard, that is a really great sign.
That is an excellent sign. A blank dashboard is a good thing. So account sharing, where is it happening? Which risk signals were associated with it? How many have there been? So in the last 12 months here, let me do all time. Maybe I'll get a better one. That's still just the one. The IP addresses, are they malicious Tor, active Tor nodes? Are they bots? Are they hosted? That type of thing. And I can come out here and actually explore these. I'm going to not do that yet because I want to show you our SignalPrint dashboard. Multiple accounts. How many are there? People that have 1 to 5 multiple accounts connected to prints, and email signals for those. So in a lot of cases, we'll find people that have multiple accounts come from free email providers like Gmail, because I can set up as many as I'd like. So we flag that as a signal. And then, where are the accounts? What are the big ones? That type of thing. Impossible travel, where have my users come from? And then potential threats for impossible travel, that type of thing. And then lastly, you're going to see this is just our signals dashboard. And what the signals dashboard is we have hundreds and hundreds of signals that we curate to make these prints and to be able to evaluate these rules. And they're predominantly around emails, IPs, and phones. What you see here is of everything we've analyzed on this tenant, in real time, we're going to tell you which signals have flagged and which ones you've got the most of, and I can go look at those. So, for example, my email signals, the free signal is by far the highest, and that's because this particular tenant has a lot of Gmail. Leaked is second highest, abusive, disposable, invalidate records, that type of thing. Where we think there might be potential threats. So there's quite a few abusive emails here. So if I can open these up and I can go look at them. This is my co-founder. I can go look at them and I can see everything I need to know about them, right? Every signal that we've curated, where they're located, and why this might have ended up this way, what breaches they've been a part of, that type of thing, right? Breaches, of course, again, and breaches over time, a breach count. So Travis, I missed anything major on these dashboards that product would, oh wait, I did. IP signals and phone signals, sorry. IP signals, same type of stuff as you would find in the email signals, just IP related. So in this case, potential threats, is it a known bot? Is it a known Tor node? Is it a known hosted IP address? And by hosted, we mean, it's coming out of an Amazon data center or a Google data center, right? Known to be malicious, known proxy, that type of thing. Same deal. I can look these up and see what's what. So here's me. I do a lot of testing on Tor nodes, so I show up in here all the time. So this is me out of a Tor node. I believe it's in Berlin. And then, all my breaches and all that good stuff that goes along with it. IP anonymity services that have been used. Again, there's a bunch of them. And then locations, right? So where are all my people coming from? Predominantly the US. and then what are my major internet service providers. And then we also curate a list of quite a few deny lists. So things from, spam providers, and there's a bunch of different types of deny lists on the internet for IP addresses in particular that we also spray signals against. And then phone signals. So for phone signals, we've got some good stuff. We can usually tell, we can almost always tell if the phone's wireless or not wireless. We can tell if it's a valid number, an invalid number. We can tell generally where it comes from. But the coolest signal we've got is the one that we have the least, that I have the least of in this tenant, is what we call do not originate. There's millions of phone numbers that aren't allowed to make phone calls, like the IRS's 1-800 number, which is the #1 spoofed number on the planet. It's not allowed to make phone calls. So if you get a phone call from it, you should never get a phone call from it, right? If you do, that's bad. So do not originate is an interesting signal for us. Anything product wants to say here, Travis? I want to make sure I'm not missing anything that you wanted me to get across.
No, that was a great overview. Just wanted to kind of, maybe it's a segue for you here, but we obviously talk about ourselves as account fraud detection and prevention. So a lot of what we just went through with these dashboards is on the detection, discovery, analysis side. And it's great to be able to see it in aggregate and see kind of trend analysis and what is problematic for your business versus any other business. But where the magic really happens, in my opinion, is on the prevention side, and the fact that all of this data is available to you in real time in the rules engine, in addition to the SignalPrint technology. So that might be a good segue to jump into that side.
It was the perfect segue. It's like we almost practiced this, almost. So yes, what Travis said. So everything I've showed you so far, we've ingested signals and we're just looking at them at this point, right? We've categorized them, we've showed them, in a bunch of different dashboards. But to Travis's point, where the real magic happens is actually taking action on these, right? So I usually do this in reverse. I'm actually going to show you SignalPrint next, the visualization of these signals. And then we're going to talk about our rules engine, which lets you build mitigations to protect yourself against these things, right? So as I talked about initially, we ingest data from the customer in real time in a bunch of different ways, but it's really just one endpoint. And, we decorate everything. And what we're really doing is we're building these things called SignalPrints. And this is a visual representation of SignalPrints. You can imagine this does look like a graph. What we're doing here is we're looking for connections between prints and entities, right? So just to pick on one of these, I'm going to go to what looks like a little wagon wheel here, right? And the blue dots represent accounts, right? So you can see these are all just different email accounts that after a successful login, in this case, it's Auth0, but after a successful login in this Auth0 tenant, we're then sent data that says this email address logged in at this IP address with this user agent at this time, right? We then create a print this is the prints, the yellow dots are the print that represents that. And it's made up of all that OSINT data about the attributes that are part of the account. So if I click on this, you'll see that we've got our email address here. We've got our phone number associated with this one. We have flagged this. We've labeled this as doing multiple accounts. So by multiple accounts, it's multiple accounts associated with a single device, right? And so it's all the same fingerprint. This is exactly what a bot might look like, or somebody who's doing, promotion abuse from the same device might look like, right? But we break everything out for it. We've got two prints. They're the same thing, but we've printed it twice, right? That's why they're exactly the same print. The IP addresses that are associated with each of these things, how many times we've seen it. what the device is, the email associated with it, and anything about the phone we can find. And I can drill in, I can see the location of each one of these. These happen to be in Azerbaijan, of all places. This particular instance of data, they don't do business outside of the US, so that in and of itself was sketchy. And so I can just drill into each one of these and see what's available. You can imagine that this is interesting to go look at. I can filter it. So you can imagine at scale, this might be hard to find things in. So filtering is what we hope our customers end up doing. And so I can come out here, these are all the signals that have flagged, all the labels we've created, even custom labels. You can see I have one here called bad dude for somebody. So if I go look for bad dude, this is a custom label that I created, and that's jason@verosint.com. I could label this however I'd like. I could test whatever, right? So if there's something that I know, I already have one that has that name. So if there's something that I would like to test or I would like to tag on my own data, I can do that. If I want to see every print we've ever created that has come from a known bot IP address, I can show those. I can, go look at them and see what's happening with each one of those things. So if I look at this IP address here, I can click on that. You can see that this IP address from New York is a known bot, it's known malicious, it's a known proxy, right? And it happens to be part of someone who's doing multiple account sharing. I can show me everybody who's been leaked. Show me everybody who's done impossible travel, right? So if I look at the impossible travel, this is me. Possible travel and account sharing. You can see I have lots of devices on a single account. So this would be like the Netflix use case where I share my account with my parents, for example. And then I can do that. I can go back in time as well, right? So I can say, well, show me everything for the last week, right? Show me everything. I won't have anything here because I haven't done anything in a while. Show me everything for the last 30 days. Hopefully that makes sense. So it's a way to visualize what a signal print is, and it's a way to kind of filter through and see what might be available to build rules for. So anything I missed on signal print, Travis?
Just that from the dashboards where we pointed out some of those explore icons we didn't use, where you could click on a given account there at the bottom, and that arrow will take you directly to that same explorer and pull up that panel for you. So you can see that data. And then there's also a search function here. So if you know who you're looking for, say, someone from your customer service team reaches out and says, hey, so-and-so reached out and said they had trouble logging in or something, and you need to go look and see troubleshooting wise what's going on or what data is associated with them. You can quickly look people up and get right to the data and still see them in context of how they're connected to all of those around them.
Right. Good point. Thank you. So as you can see, I just searched for myself. This is what I'm part of in this one. So I can go look. I can see I'm part of multiple accounts. I'm a new print and I'm in Chicago. All right. So let's talk about rules. So now you can see how we've ingested events. We flag things. We categorize things. We find new labels. We look for patterns, right? But now that we've done that, that's great. But now that we've done that, how can we help mitigate against these patterns or build rules to orchestrate what happens next, right? So that's where our rules engine comes into play. And I've got a couple example rules in here just for demo purposes. We've got templates available, which I'll show you in a second. Actually, I'll show you those right now. We have a template library that we're always adding templates to that help you write the rules. And help you understand how to write the rules. We're going to continually add to these as time goes by. What I've done for the demo here, though, is I've got some email indicators for account takeover, IP indicators for account takeover, and phone indicators for account takeover. And what I'm doing with these is the way a rule works is you make an API call to us, or your IAM platform makes an API call to us. Tells us what rule to run, passes, in the case of the email one, for example, passes us the email address to run it against, right? And then we give you back an outcome from that rule. And the outcome is intended to tell you what to do next. The outcome can be anything. You could define it however you'd like. We give you some examples and what to use, and we give you some suggestions, but you can define it however you like. So for this demo, what I've done is I've simply made some generic rules that, some rule sets that are going to return an outcome of possible ATO back to the caller with a reason for it if one of these things fire. So they run in order. It starts with the first one. If it doesn't fire, it goes to the next one. If it doesn't fire, it goes to the next one. And then if none of them fire, it gives you a default outcome. And in this case, it's going to be allow. So just to walk you through these really quick, this expression is Google expression language, common expression language, sorry, by Google. And it's pretty easy to use and learn. There's a little info tab here. You can click on it. You can go, there's some in our documentation for it, but it's pretty simple. On the right-hand side, you'll find all of the signals that you have available to you to evaluate. So in this case, we're evaluating emails. So here's all of our signals that are available. If you hover over it, it'll tell you what the signal is and how you should think about it. We've got signals for our events. So if I will look for impossible travel, new prints, or verified print, we're going to do a whole another session on one of these days. Prints in general. For the prints, you can actually get pretty complex, and you can, ask questions like, account sharing, how many degrees of separation are there? You can Kevin Bacon the whole thing if you want to. You can build out your whole thing. And then there's IP signals, of which we've got quite a few, phone signals, and then we can ask questions about user agents as well, right? So in this case, this is about emails in this particular rule set. So here you go. I'm just simply asking, is this a generic email or is it a disposable email provider, right? If it is, send back the outcome of possible ATO and give the reason of this email address supplied appears to be a possible generic or disposable address, right? If that doesn't fire, we're going to go to the next one. I'm going to ask the question, is this malicious? Malicious being defined as an email address that's been known to do a malicious act. There's a bunch of providers that provide the malicious signal. Same thing, possible ATO. In this case, it's malicious. Now, remember at the beginning, I mentioned that we started as a risk company. We still have a risk score. And we've taken away some of the configurability. However, we now have a risk score that you can just ask in general, is this risk score greater than 50, 0 to 100 being the, what we supply. So it's greater than 50, it's a possible ATO. And this takes an aggregate into account. So it takes a bunch of different signals into account to determine whether or not we would think it's risky. So you can use our risk signal if you'd like. This is just an example of that. And again, we'll return possible ATO. We're going to ask about the domain. In this case, we're asking first, is it known to be a risky top level domain? And then we also ask over here, has it been X amount of days since it was registered? So is it less than 60? So a domain that was registered less than 60 days ago might be a sketchy domain, your possible ATO, right? And then lastly, just to show that we can do it, this is looking at the domain for the email itself and asking, is the domain even set up correctly? So does it have a proper MX record? Is it a valid DNS? Does it have a valid A record, valid ICANN suffix, right? So a lot of times people are perpetrating ATO, they'll set up a random domain that doesn't have everything it needs, and it doesn't matter, so they just do it, and this will check the domain. Otherwise, send back allow. And if you get back, in this case, if you get back possible ATO from us, your IAM platform, depending on what it is, if you're using Auth0, maybe you tell Auth0, go MFA this user now, right? Or maybe if it's possible ATO and you're a bank, you say, well, you have to go get identity proofed now. And we have a whole another Verosint Live we'll do about identity proofing. So the idea here is to orchestrate what to do next and help you do that based on our signaling platform. And then you can evaluate the rules here as well. So you can punch in your email address. It'll run the rule and give you back what the outcome would be for that particular thing. Let's see. Going back to rules, just to show you some IP related stuff really quick. There you go. So I'm going to look for masking and location masking. So in this case, are you an known active Tor node? Are you known Tor? Sorry, are you an active Tor, or have you been on a Tor node, or is this from a Tor node? Active VPN or from a known VPN. Basically, this is all the anonymity stuff. Possible ATO, known bot, known to be malicious. Are you on any one of our deny lists? And then again, a general risk score, right? And then last but not least, phones. Maybe. Did I lose you guys? I did not. Okay.
Nope, still here.
There we go. There you go. So for phones, is it a valid phone number? Is it a known disposable phone number? Are you on the do not originate list? And in general, are you greater than 50 on a risk score? Now you could make as many rules as you like. I could just add a rule, build my expressions, and orchestrate whatever outcome I like in whatever format I want. I can even combine email, phone, and IP in single rule sets. So it's a single rule set that I call, and I don't have to call 3 different rules. The point behind the entire rules engine is to, in real time, not only evaluate our labels that we've done, like things like account takeover labels. So if I go down here and look at like, here's one for Ping Da Vinci. If I come down here and I look at if it's known account sharing, we're going to send back the outcome to Ping Da Vinci of MFA. So this thing is doing account sharing. They must MFA now, right? And these are all going to look the same. These are all just multiple accounts, MFA. And if it's a brand new print that we've never seen before, MFA. So yeah, that's, you can evaluate it however you like. You can put them together however you like. And the point is to make it real time to orchestrate the outcome. Let's see, anything you want to add to rules, Travis?
No, I mean, I think definitely going to be room for a future discussion to dive deeper on different use cases around rules and how to do different things. But the intent is to give you the power to not have to require human review while still staying protected from account fraud. So, we've shown some examples of how to use some of the fraud labeling that we provide directly that you can put in your signup flow or your login flow, as well as just check, individual signals. And we've even had some customers talk to us about the fact that these different layers of rules, whether it's some initial rules at the sign-up flow to just raise the bar for bad actors trying to create new accounts by saying, hey, you can't use a disposable email provider, right? You're using an email provider that's really no disposable. You're going to have to try a little harder than that. Even that, kind of takes a big chunk out of the attack on your platform or application. And then you can get a lot more sophisticated as you dive into finding the specific patterns of fraud that are affecting your business.
Yep, for sure. Just to close this up here, not close this, just to move on through this. Couple of things of note. We do have a command line interface tool that we developed that does everything the API can do. Both APIs, the ingestion API and the rules API. From the command line. So one way we've seen customers kind of start off is, export their data and then import it through our CLI so they can get an idea of what has occurred in their environment without having to actually put it into production yet, right? So it's a good way to kind of kick the tires. It's also a good way to find out what would happen in your environment. So if I ingested, say, one thing that's nice about our SignalPrints is that they don't have to be at this moment. If you've got, the last 30 days worth of logs that contain the information needed to create a SignalPrint, then go ahead. You can print the last 30 days of all of your logins or registrations to find out what it actually looks like. And then you could run rules against that same data to see what would have happened if you had these rules implemented. So there's a bunch of ways to go about implementing it. The CLI is an excellent way to kind of jump right into it without having to actually go change a bunch of code somewhere or anything like that. And then of course, everything's fully documented. The API is fully documented, and we spent a lot of time on that. We also have a Postman collection that's available publicly, so you can see how to call the API and what to do with the API as well. So that's also available.
Yeah, if you can't tell, we've invested a lot in trying to be extremely easy to integrate to. We know there's a lot of systems at play in the identity world. And so we want to, work with all of the players that are in your existing identity stack. We've got a lot of integrations out of the box today. You can read about those on the website. And then obviously we have the API and the CLI, if that's a better means to get, working with your environment, whether it's homegrown or some partner we don't work with yet. And then all the documentation as well. So, it is it should not be a chore to configure and integrate with us and with our existing partners. It could be as quick as literally a few button clicks and a flipping of a switch to get turned on and have data flowing.
Yep. Let's see. Should I do would you be interested in doing, I'm looking at you, Travis, of doing the data web demo here really quick, finally, or should we save that for another day?
Let's save that for another one. And what Mark's referencing is a thing we just announced last week called adaptive identity proofing, where, a lot of stuff we talked about today, adaptive authentication flows, step up to MFA or step down to nothing. If you're not worried about someone at all, adaptive identity proofing is a way to step up to different types of identity proofing flows and do that all dynamically so that you can kind of bring identity proofing to a security use case beyond the traditional regulations from the financial industry. But we will save that for another time because I want to make sure we get the appropriate amount of time to spend on that. We did have a few questions come in, so maybe we can step through those and then see if there are any more. So first question around, I talked a little bit about the partners we work with, but can we leverage Verosint with our existing MFA provider, and how hard is it to integrate the solution? The answer short is yes, right? Like we do not want to replace your MFA provider. We want to work with your MFA provider and help decide when to trigger MFA. And so there are existing partners we have today. We listed those earlier, Auth0, working with ForgeRock, working with Ping DaVinci, more of those coming. If you have specific ones you'd love us to work with, we'd love to hear that. And then obviously the REST API that makes it easy to integrate yourself if you've got a more homegrown or bespoke solution. And then we talked about this one a little bit, but I'll just reiterate it around, do you have to create custom rules or are there rule templates and how do those work? So the rule templates are there for you to have your creativity sparked, right? They're there to use and to change and to adjust as a good starting point. So you don't have to start with a completely blank page, but you can also always jump to a blank page and design a rule to your heart's content. I'm going to be curious to see some of the creativity that you guys come up with around rules, because that expression language is quite capable in what it's able to do and reference and how it's able to evaluate data. So I'm interested to see some of the crazy things people come up with. And then last thing I'll just throw out there is, obviously we took through the platform today and we'd love to hear your feedback. So much so that we actually make it pretty easy to sign up directly on the website to use us for free, 14 days, pretty generous limits for you to be able to send data and see what it would look like if you sent your own data. So I encourage you to take the time to go do that. Ask us any questions throughout. Excuse me. Drop us an email, and we'd be happy to help.
With that being said, I think that we can probably wrap this bad boy up. Hopefully this was useful. Hopefully you guys can sign up for some more. We're going to go much more in depth. So we'll talk more about SignalPrint. We'll talk about identity proofing. we'll talk about, we'll even do a session on how to make more complex rules. So I hope everybody can join at a later time. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Travis. And everyone, again, this will be recorded and we will share it with you shortly.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks. Have a good one.